Welcome to Dare to Dwell, a podcast with the Daughters of St. Paul. We're so glad you're here. For this season, the sisters met up with college students and campus ministers at the Seek Conference in St. Louis, Missouri, to talk about their experiences and questions about the Catholic faith, deepening our prayer life, and more. Join Sister Benedicta and Sister Orianne as they reflect on the students' questions and comments and dive deeper into the topics they bring up. Enjoy today's episode.
Hi, welcome back to Dare to Dwell, a podcast with the Daughters of St. Paul. I'm Sister Orianne, Pietra, René.
I'm Sister Julie Benedicta.
And we have a fascinating episode this episode.
I hope so, yeah.
Yeah. We had so many amazing questions around a particular topic, and I think this will resonate very much with all of you. It certainly resonated with me.
Yeah.
We had so many people kind of at the Seek conference, and also we've had in feedback from previous seasons, these questions about identity. Like, not just who am I, but if I hear the words, oh, I'm a son of God, I'm a daughter of God, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does it actually mean? We had so many people talking about the reality of how the community around you kind of affects how you're able or quick to accept what your identity is and to live out of it, and so many other things. So if these are things that sound like they resonate with you, or you recognize that they would resonate with the people around you, stay tuned. We're going on a wild ride.
Yeah, this is going to be good. I want to just kick it right off with something that a gentleman named Javier shared with us.
So I strongly believe that developing a relationship with God, I guess it falls back to, the brotherhood of the apostles. It was something that not a single one of them could do alone. They really needed one another to really develop that connection. Even with Jesus, it's just the camaraderie necessary to feel confident, because following the path of Jesus is an incredible thing to put upon yourself. And so human connection is very lacking in today's modern world. It's very hard, in my experience, to find people that want to kindle that same fire for pursuing a truer state of grace, where you hold one another accountable, and you can really call each other out, if you will, in a loving manner, in a manner that really pulls the best out of all parties involved. And that for me, I feel is a very big obstacle, is just finding people that are willing to walk with you in that way.
There are so many layers to what Javier said. And I just want to start out by the fact that he's kind of grappling with this need for human connection around something, around kind of a common understanding of who we are, right? And when he's talking about, having friends who can call you out, like lovingly, you can only call someone out on something if you know what they're called to.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Who they're called to be. So I think that this is such a great question to start off our conversation on identity, and how we can even grow in our understanding of who we are called to be and who we are.
And even the way he starts off with pointing to the brotherhood of the apostles, that they couldn't do it alone. Nope. None of the 12 went off on their own. And that not only did they need each other, but they needed each other even in their own walking with Jesus.
Yeah.
And I love that he went all the way back to that, and to the very beginning, the roots of the church is this need for this camaraderie, and this need to feel part of something together with a shared goal.
And I just want to point out too, when we think of finding a community who will help us grow into the fullness of who we are and into our identity and our our walk with Christ, we are usually envisioning people who we get along with. But in fact, the disciples we see in Scripture did not always get along.
No.
Quite the contrary. And yet they did help each other towards that.
Yeah.
Because they were connected around the most important thing.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't necessarily click with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm so edified when I see groups, whether it's a Bible study groups, parish groups, Newman groups, like who have really built a sense of community, even around such highly different people they probably never would have hung out with outside of that context. Yeah. That is a real sign of brotherhood.
Yeah. And to think too, like, if I'm going to be part of a group and they're going to be helping me in my walk with the Lord and they're going to be being honest with me, I need to be a contributing member to that, right? Yeah. Like, I need to be able to be attentive to what other people are needing and how they might be struggling and how they might need a hand or what the right words might be in holding somebody accountable to something that I know that they trust me to do.
Right.
You know? That just as you're saying with like the apostles, they didn't all necessarily get along. Like you had somebody who was a zealot, which meant that they really wanted to get rid of Rome out of Jerusalem, right? But then you also had somebody who was a tax collector, which meant that they were completely cooperating with Rome in Jerusalem. And they're in the whole journey together. Like they're making the journey together.
And you had people who literally grew up together and were working together before they were called, who were bickering constantly about like, who's the best? Like literally.
Yeah, exactly. And that any group that I'm going to be looking for, they're going to be on the journey growing. They're not going to be already perfect.
No,
and then I get to jump in and just kind of like absorb their perfection. No, whatever group it is, they're going to be a group that's going to want me as a member. You know?
Right.
And so that's like, I have to be contributing to the perfecting of the group, the journey.
Yeah. And that really calls for a reciprocity, both in gift and in reception. And are we open to receiving the gift of who the others are in their imperfection? Are we open to receiving the call outs that we do desire?
Yeah.
You know, even if they're imperfectly given, they usually
because
are.
They will be.
Yep. And are we open to risking in vulnerability the same type of imperfect gift?
Yeah. And I love that he's pointing to people who he says kindle that same fire for pursuing a state of grace.
Yeah.
You know, like I love the imagery that he's using of like kind of a passion, but the passion is for pursuing this state of living in God's grace.
It reminds me of something that St. Paul says, I think in his letter to the Ephesians, where he talks about being rooted and grounded in love. There's no word about the perfection of the plant and the perfection of the surrounding plants and, you know, but what are you rooted in? And what are you rooted in together? There are, I grew up in the forest. We call it the bush. And if you are from Canada or Australia, you will understand that term. And it was so striking because trees grow up very close to one another, right? And their roots intertwine. So depending on the circumstances, if one tree goes down in a storm, it's not uncommon for it to pull up another tree.
Right.
And the thing that's so beautiful about that is you realize, I mean, yes, they downed each other, which is the only reason you can see their roots. But when you can see their roots, you realize they were actually holding each other down in the ground for all of the storms before that. And there are so many times I think we take for granted because we don't even look down at our own roots. We don't realize that there are other people helping us to stay grounded and to stay rooted and grounded in love, in Christ, in that grace. And we need that because when storms come, and they do inevitably, we're not always ready for them, you know, honestly. And when other people are and their roots are like, hey, stay steady, buddy, like stay the course, they can help us when we would have lost our way without them.
Yeah.
And likewise, there's going to be a day when a storm hits them they were not prepared for. No matter how many years they have journeyed with the Lord, something's going to hit them and hit them hard. Are we able then to support them the way that they've supported us?
Okay, so now we're going to hear from Irene, who I'm not even going to preface because she just has a lot to say. Here we go.
And since joining college, I've lost that because of how people have treated me, how I've treated myself. I haven't been able to receive. Whenever somebody says something kind about me, oh, you look beautiful today, I don't believe them. not because I think I'm particularly ugly, but because I feel like they want something from me and I have to give. Or if they give me something, I have to return something to them. And a part of that is just the society I was in. I was told women have to be giving, they have to be generous. And to receive something is to, like, not be generous. And it really hurt because I've been extremely lonely. And when you're extremely lonely, you don't feel like you're deserving. You have to give in order to feel good. And I lost myself. I lost that little girl that was able to just love everything and everyone. And I miss her so terribly much. I miss her a lot because I knew as a kid human dignity. I knew it deep in my core that everybody is just another kid in the sandbox that wants to be loved and they want to find friends. And so the worst thing you can do is ask. And I've really tried to get back to her while I've been at Seek by just opening conversations and trying to get that trust I had in people back then.
There's a lot to this one.
There is.
Super appreciate the vulnerability here.
Yeah.
And for all of us, I think, who have been wounded in our growing up years, maybe I should really just speak for myself, but there are times where I have definitely looked back to who I was or what I was like as a child and kind of thought, like, was that really the real me? And I lost her somewhere along the way, you know? But what I think is so beautiful that she's pulling out here is that, you know, as a child, she had this innate ability to perceive basically the core desire of a person.
Yeah.
Identify them with that and not the other junk, you know?
Yep.
And receive based on that own core desire in her.
Yes.
You know? I think if we understand at the core of our being that every one of us desires to be loved and desires relationship, like to have friends, like the kids in the play box, you know?
Yeah, I love that line. Just another kid in the sandbox.
It's so perfect. If we can remember that at the core of each of us is that desire and that longing, we're going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something too, you know, when she's talking about like the feminine need to be generous.
Yeah.
Yeah, as somebody who's a huge Edith Stein fan, like like all of my kind of like little radars go up, you know, and I'm like, well, except that actually the feminine gift of receptivity is huge, is huge. And to receive is not necessarily to be selfish or to refuse to be generous, actually. Often it's recognizing that another person needs to be received in a particular way. That is the gift that we are able to be in the world, that we are able to provide to others. And that actually requires ourselves to really be grounded in the understanding of who we are so that we don't get lost in the thing that we're receiving, right? That we're not, as we receive the other person and who they are and maybe their wounds and maybe what, you know, what other needs that they have, that we don't lose ourselves in that we remain ourselves. We stand strong in who we are and who the Lord has created us to be while still able to receive that other person. So it's interesting to me that she was tying these together, but it sounds like she's gotten some interesting messages about what that receptivity is and what generosity might be. And so maybe just like hoping for some, maybe we can talk about this a little bit more in one of our other episodes, like the gift of holding another person's reality.
Yeah.
You know, that as we're talking about identity, as we're talking about, you know, being in community and building up a culture that supports our desire to pursue the Lord, that part of that is the ability to hold other people's reality, and that receptivity is something that's really beautiful.
Yeah. And that receptivity includes being open to receive the love of another person, not just, you know, everything else about them. And I think
sure, yeah.
sometimes,
yeah.
I mean, that should go without saying, right? But it's the hardest thing to receive.
No, but it's a good thing. Thank you for calling it out. It's good to point it out.
Yeah. And I think of how many cultures, and in a way this is beautiful, and in a way it sends mixed messages. When we are complimented, it's very common in many cultures, not every culture, to refuse the compliment, not because you inherently don't think it's true, but to show humility, you know?
Right. Yeah.
To show that, like, I'm not a cocky jerk and I really do think I'm the absolute best. And it's a way to display like, oh, I know I'm not everything. Like this really isn't about me. Or it's, the grace of God, like that kind of thing, depending on your culture. There is a beauty in the humility of recognizing that good things do not originate in yourself, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes because of the way we were raised in that, it can have a mixed message, or we can at least interpret it as a mixed message of, I'm not worthy of receiving people's love or affirmation or whatever, And that's certainly not the cultural intent of any of those things.
Yeah.
But that type of attitude can kind of leave that kind of messaging on us that we are really meant to give and not to receive,
Yeah.
And if everybody always gave and never received, we could never give.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good when you're trying to give and the person won't receive what you're giving them.
Exactly.
That doesn't feel good.
Which is why one of the greatest acts of generosity we can give is to receive. Yeah.
But yeah, it takes a lot of courage for someone to be really kind of consciously attempting to open herself up to new relationships in that way. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I'm grateful she shared.
Yeah. Including to God.
So yeah, going from Irene's kind of reflection on her loss of self and the inability to receive, I thought it might be helpful to switch over to Liz and kind of her experience of what that's like.
For my whole Christian life, I've always, know that God loves me, but sometimes the world keeps telling you that no one loves you and that you're not worth it, or that you have to do so many things to be worth. But the past 2 years, I have really struggled with that. But I have come to realize, with the help of Mary, that God loves me no matter what, and that the important thing during, my struggles or my daily life or my worries and fears is not that, the bad things that I've done or whatever the thoughts I have, but is that God is with me till the end of days, and that during my struggles, He's holding me and He's looking after me. So that's what really have, helped my faith.
I think what Liz shares about the feeling that you have to make yourself somehow worthy of love is super relatable. I think a lot of people can know exactly what she's talking about there.
Yeah. And I think it's very interesting because in the messaging that we receive from our culture, it's very mixed. It's in fact, it's contradictory to itself. And on one hand, we hear phrases like, you are loved, you're worth it. Like these are taglines of companies.
Like fill in the blank positivity.
Right.
You're to be positive about anything, any feature of yourself. Yeah.
Right. But none of that is defined. You are loved by whom? Who?
Yeah.
Because how many people can we think of in our lives where we're in a group or a circle and we know we're not really accepted?
Yeah.
We don't feel safe. We don't, whatever. So if I can say to myself this positive affirmation of I am loved by who?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I have the positive affirmation of you're worth it, worth what? What am I worth?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like what? And we have a little detector within us that calls that out. And that's why no matter how many times we hear those affirmations from different for-profit companies or even by our peers or teachers, or affirmations we speak to ourselves in the mirror.
Or even just like pop psychology, like, feel good stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
At some point, even if we believe it in our mind, there's going to be a part of us that's like, that is a lie. Like my detector's going off, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And it's because there's the core of it, the root of it, the by whom, the worth what is missing. And so when we're in certain groups or whatever who are affirming this in us and we do the first thing that they don't like, or we say something wrong, maybe we really do mess up. Often the first reaction is to kick someone out of the group, to shun them, to cancel them, to whatever, right? And if we are experiencing these things, even if it's not done to us, if it's done to the people around us, again, that detector in us is going off saying,
I'm next,
right? Or I thought they were worth it. I thought I loved them. And all of a sudden, all of the strings that are attached to your love and your worthiness become clear. They're no longer fishing wire. They are chains, and you can see them.
Yeah.
And that is when we realize the world is telling me that I'm not loved.
Yeah. And I love here what Liz is saying too about when she says that, in the face of all of this, that God is with me until the end of the days, right? So she knows her scripture.
Yeah.
And she says, and during my struggles, he's holding me, he's looking after me. Like, not after the struggle, not like after I've crashed and burned or sinned or whatever, but like even in the midst of it, he is holding me and looking after me. And there's just something about her awareness of that was really moving to me.
Yes. And it's a love that's unbound. It's not restricted, but it's also not conditional. There's no strings, there's no chains, there's nothing. You're free, he's free.
Yeah.
And that allows for that holding, that's a word that really speaks of human relationship, right? Not of I don't know, like slavery or belonging the way that like an item belongs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's very parental.
Exactly. Yeah. Familial.
Yeah. So good.
So good.
Okay, so we're going to let Jonas kind of tell a story about his experience of Seek and kind of like how the negative parts and the positive parts like were kind of playing together for him in his experience.
I met someone and we were hanging out. We made a rosary together. We went and saw the talk together. But then like after she left and after I was alone, I went to the carnival and I just felt so alone. I felt lost. Like I felt like all of a sudden, like I don't even know where it came from. I just felt like my whole life as a Catholic was a lie, and I didn't know what to do. So I went to confession this morning, and I talked to the priest about it, and he was telling me, like the closer, like you probably did have some connection with the talks, but the closer when you try to go back to God, that's when the devil strikes the hardest, and I felt it. Like I felt like this deep loss in myself. So there's definitely that, and plus peer pressure is a real thing. It's like we have Seek like to help us grow in faith, but like outside of Seek, it's not always going to be like this. So that was my big issue last year. After I'd gotten done with Seek, I went back home. I was like, hey, I'm gonna live this every single day. Everything I learn Seek, I'm gonna live it all the time. And plus, I had like a big expectation of myself, and I'm usually like very hard on myself. So like, I messed up once, and I'm like, I can never go back. And plus, like the culture at the time, like I was very much struggling with my faith because like I didn't have any good role models to help me go back. So I was kind of stuck in this limbo essentially of trying to figure out where to go with my faith. But now that I'm back here, I have the chance to like collect my thoughts and work more with little goals than just trying to say, hey, I'll just live this like every day, just starting now. And I guess it's another thing. We sometimes set way too high expectations of ourselves. And then when we don't live up to those sometimes impossible expectations, we feel like we failed in God's eyes or are somehow lesser in God's eyes. And we know it's a lie. Like it's in our face. Like we know it's a lie, but it's hard not to move beyond that because like it may be a lie, but it's a very, very convincing lie. Especially if you have experiences that tend to think that way.
This is like the realest thing I've heard all day.
Yeah, it's like the narration of the spiritual life, right? Like he kind of lived like all of the experiences of the spiritual life in one day.
Yeah.
Just like this closeness with somebody and like growing together in faith and like feeling a real connection to the talks and then all of a sudden feeling like, no, except I'm actually the worst at all of this and needing confession and feeling like super under attack and am I a failure? And, I've tried to do these things over and over again, but then I can't. And now I'm going to try again, but will I be able to? And it's just like this cycle that plays out over and over again. And it's so real.
It is so real. And I think I had read the transcript for this before. I love hearing people's voices. You get a glimpse of who they are. But I had read the transcript before you just played this back, Sister Benedicta. And I remember when I was reading through it the first time, I was like, facts.
Mhm.
Like this. Yes. And it's so true that, yeah, like I've definitely had experience of this in my own life as well, where after a tremendous consolation or a tremendous breakthrough, truly, with God, where he finally got through to me and I was like, oh my gosh, this changes everything.
Mhm.
I was very soon after struck by, like he says, the sense of loss. Like everything was a lie.
Mhm.
I lost something or I am lost. And sometimes even like a feeling of anxiety, like almost like a panic attack almost.
Uh-huh.
And those are very real things that can come to us as a real kind of combat
Yeah.
on the identity that we've just claimed for ourselves.
Yeah.
And because we are fallen, because we all struggle with pride, right? It's a very natural thing to believe that I have lost my identity or that I am less in the eyes of God because I am now less in my own eyes. And it's, even though we know that we cannot be less in the eyes of God because I feel less in my own eyes, it's very easy for me to kind of position how I feel as how God must feel,
Mhm.
almost making myself God, even though I know that that's not true. It's not what I'm trying to do. But we can really project that onto him and make ourselves the center of that without ever meaning to. And that's exactly what the temptation is trying to get us to do. That's exactly what it's doing.
Yeah.
I love that his response to that, it was perfect. He went to confession.
Yeah.
Perfect
So good.
response.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not even to say necessarily that he was doing something wrong that he needed
No.
to go to confession for,
Right.
but just that he recognized that something wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
And so he ran to the sacraments.
Right.
Yeah. I love that.
Absolute perfect response. And I love that he brings out that within this whole context, he has two groups available to him. One of them he has every day, and that is a group that's not necessarily able at this point to support him
Mhm.
in his spiritual life. And on the other hand, he has this amazing, vibrant group that's available to him 2 days of the year,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And what do I do with that?
Yeah.
That's a very powerful exploration of how community or even like, not, I don't want to say peer pressure, but like the reality of our peers
Yeah.
can pose both obstacles and encouragements and perhaps even challenges for us in our missionary activity. Where am I bringing Jesus? Where am I being fostered in my faith? And where am I being challenged?
Mhm.
And how do I deal with that?
Yeah. So I'm going to switch us over to Josie for a second. And she's going to be talking about some of the struggles in the spiritual life,
Mm-hmm.
and especially on a college campus and how she experiences that.
I would definitely say the culture today, especially on college campuses as a college student, just not a lot of people get it. Not a lot of people try to understand it. And they immediately go to this viewpoint that it's just a bunch of rules that take over your life, and it doesn't give you the freedom to have other parts of your identity, where in reality, having God's love as our identity really sets us free the most. Whereas they see that as something that controls us, like it is a cage, where rather they just don't open their hearts to understand it.
It's like such an astute diagnosis.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to be caged.
No. And it's interesting, like she's saying that for her, a big struggle in her spiritual life is that the people around her don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes it hard for her to live it, right? And so, but yeah, they don't get it. They don't understand what religion's all about. They don't understand what Christianity is all about, because they think of it as something that cages you or makes you less yourself. Where instead, as she says, like actually having God's love as our identity sets us free.
I went to a very secular university myself, both times. And the first university that I went to for my undergrad, lovely university. I got a really good education. It's extremely, extremely secular, even more so today. And there was a bridge that went over the river that split our campus in half. And in the winter, that bridge was so deadly cold. It was awful. You brought extra clothes the days that you had to cross the bridge if you had class on the other side, because the bridge was so brutal and it was icy and it was awful. And there was a Christian group on campus. It wasn't very large at the time. But at Christmas, everyone's a little bit more open at Christmas, right? And what they would do is they would station brave souls. I volunteered one year to stand at either end of the bridge where you were freezing your butt off. And we would have a little hot chocolate station.
Nice.
And like Rice Krispies, like little snacks that everybody could eat. And we would hand them out and we would say Merry Christmas. And that was the evangelization that we could do on campus.
Yeah.
And I cannot tell you how many people came up and took the hot chocolate and were happy about it and accepted a Merry Christmas when during the rest of the year, they couldn't take anything from us.
Yeah.
They couldn't. And the ability to find those little teeny gaps of openness and to share in those gaps in joy.
Yeah.
Because when you're able to share the joy that you have, the peace that you have, you're able to share a freedom. And when people start to see that freedom, then the misconception that you are chained or caged or whatever starts to crumble.
Yeah.
And when someone begins to see their own chains, their own cage, they can identify freedom for what it is. And that's one of the greatest privileges that comes with this very real struggle of the spiritual life.
Yeah.
Every time now I see hot chocolate stands like on really cold roads, I always think of my university.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. So going from that reflection, maybe we could listen to what Anya has to say about her experience with fellow students.
I would think it's like the way that other people would view them, or like what other people would think. Many people want to grow in their faith because they have that desire, that like longing for God. But what stops them is their peers, maybe like going to a church or even like talking about God. That would stop them from kind of doing so because of what the people next to them might say. Maybe a lot of people today, they like to avoid conflict. And oftentimes when you bring up religion or the faith, that creates disagreement or a difference of opinion. And I think oftentimes in the world, people see love as love is like willing the good of the other and telling them the truth with charity, of course. But a lot of people, I think, have a misunderstanding of love, and they think that love is like agreeing with the other person or supporting the other person in a false way. So even if they're doing the wrong thing, they're going to like say, I want to be loving, or I want to show this person that I care by supporting them. And I think that's why we have a lot of problems or difficulties. And
Solid. Yeah, it's very true. We at least culturally have kind of lost a grasp of what love means.
Yeah.
And the idea that love is letting people do whatever they want, I think comes from a time where we're not in survival situations, because anyone who grew up in survival situations knows how dangerous that is to somebody's life.
Yeah.
And that is equally true in societies where we're not in survival situations, but this has very lasting and real repercussions on our ability to form relationships and on our souls. I think of how many interactions I've had with people online who are in a situation where they are deeply unhappy. And they remember times in their past, whether it was last year or 50 years ago, depending on their state in life, where they had a longing for God. Maybe they even started pursuing it. And then things got in the way. Maybe it was relationships or peers, coworkers, whatever, job opportunities. And they decided to deprioritize it in favor of the people around them for whatever reason. And they felt like that would make them happy.
Yeah.
And it turns out a year later, 20 years later, however long it is, that really what they were doing was numbing the pain of the yearning for God. And that the thing that they thought would make them happy was just, it's like one of those, those medicines that you take where eventually you hit a threshold and it doesn't help you anymore. You need a little bit more
to
of
make
it.
it worse. Yeah.
Right. It's like now they can't numb that yearning anymore.
Yeah.
And they're realizing that the things that they thought would make them happy that they were pursuing are not making them happy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a distraction.
Yeah.
It might make them feel good for a moment, but they're recognizing this isn't actually happiness. And I wanted happiness. I wanted joy. I wanted peace. I wanted meaning.
Yeah.
And I numbed the pain of the yearning for that so that I could do something easier that I thought would work. And I love that she's actually bringing that out.
Yeah, and that there's a desire to avoid conflict, and that's kind
Yes.
of what is at the service of this dynamic that you're talking about. And and even her point that like conflict comes about because there's a disagreement or a difference of opinion or whatever, and it's like that is real, but the love of God and the incarnation of Jesus Christ are not things that are a matter of opinion. They're not things that we can like disagree about objectively. You know, people could try, but they are the truth. And so, yes, there may be disagreement, there may be differences of opinions, but that doesn't change what is real. And so, like, avoiding conflict because we want to allow people to kind of stay in their error is also not loving, you know? Like the desire to have people come to know the Lord and come to know the love of God. That is, like she's saying, like, if love is loving the good, like wanting the good of the other, then the good of the other is God.
Yeah.
And so avoiding conflict just because there may be, you know, a difference of understanding of all. No, of course, I'm not saying that we're not careful about how we present the reality.
Of course, yeah.
Or that we like slam it over people's heads, but living in a way that like maintains the peace while sacrificing truth is never going to be satisfying.
And I think that's, again, to go back to what we were saying before, that's the peace of the world often just means status quo.
Yeah.
It does not mean peace. And when it's a really important thing to be able to ask ourselves, do I love this person enough to be willing to suffer the pain of momentary or perhaps a little bit longer rejection or discomfort for the sake of their ultimate joy?
Yep.
And that's a very hard thing to ask ourselves and to answer. But it's also essential because if we never ask ourselves that question, if we're never willing to take that risk, we actually allow them to be miserable. And we want to work alongside our healer and our king, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so like what you were just talking about is very similar to the experience that Junior shared with us. He's a barber in a small town, and so he's just talking a little bit about his experience of having a conversion as somebody who kind of knows everybody in a small town and what that's like.
He was talking about like, what is it to show the world? Because I mean, as a barber and as someone who has born and raised in his hometown, you obviously know like everyone, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's not a small town, it's like a bigger small town, but like everyone knows about you. And especially as a barber, like everyone knows you cut hair, everyone knows about you, everyone knows what you do, everyone knows your identity. So taking that step, like to being like, you know what, like this is what I'm gonna do, is something really hard. It's something that's like holding me back in a lot of stuff. Again, because of the fear of like rejection, of the fear of being judged. And so something that really inspired me was like when I got closer to God, it was just how people like just carry themselves. You can just see the happiness, the joy, like you don't even have to like ask them anything. Just by seeing a person, you already know what they have like inside of them. And I just think that that's like the most beautiful thing. And like I want to get to that, like, you know what I mean? Like it's that it's finding like true happiness is, I guess, what my goal is. But changing your identity is something hard. Like it's something, especially in a world that like just thinks of you of a certain way. It's hard to take that step.
Again, so real.
Yeah, that's like the word of the day, right? Like just real. These people are just so cool and so real. And he's just like living this reality with his eyes wide open too.
Yeah.
You know, like he's so clear about what it is that he's experiencing, what it is that he's hoping for, wishing for, wanting, and exactly what seems to be holding him back, you know, which is so much of the battle is just those three things, right? Like knowing where you are, knowing what you're longing for, and knowing what the obstacles are. That's huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love how he points to the confine of his circle, right? Anyone who grew up in a small town knows what that's like. I grew up in a very small town. But even if we're looking at the confines of our family, of our friend group, that's probably not that big, all things told, of our workplace, like all these different things, it can feel suffocating. Especially when everyone has an idea of who you are, your personality, what you've done, what you do. And I think that's part of the reason why one of the hardest people to bring Christ to is like our siblings or like that tight-knit group, because they know you. They know all the crazy stuff you've done and all the crazy things you think and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And it's natural for them to first look to that and be like, well, I mean, yeah, you would fall into this weird religion thing because, you know, X, Y, Z. But if we can flip that on its head and remember, Jesus says several things about this. And one of the things he said that always kind of struck me is that a city on a hill cannot be hidden. And cities on hills, they should be able to be hidden when it gets dark. You would think, right? Why can it not be hidden? Because there's lights.
Yeah.
You cannot dim those lights. And people who are lost on very dangerous roads with dangerous wildlife, when they see those lights, they beeline. They beeline to the lights. And that is what we are called to be in our circles. The people who recognize that they are lost, that they are broken, that they are in danger, they have something to beeline to. And God willing, let it be us to bring them into the family of God. It's so difficult in these situations, but this is our mission field.
Yeah.
These are the people we are sent to as broken ministers of the Lord. And if we were not broken, if we were some perfect outsider who waltzes into town and then waltzes out, it would mean so much less. And we could build something so much inferior to what the Lord is calling us to build.
Yeah. Yeah, I love what he says, that changing your identity is hard. And like you're saying, the people that know us the best are the ones who are going to roll their eyes when we try to do something different or live a little bit differently, or maybe they're going to be antagonistic to it and they're going to point out the things that maybe make it quote unquote hypocritical for you to behave the way now that you desire to, that we wouldn't have in the past.
Or like point to old things and be like, you know, you want to. I know how much you like doing X, Y, Z. Smoking X, Y, Z. You know, these are real things. Yeah. But I think that's part of the strength of the witness, to be able in our own weakness. Maybe we can't say, honestly, no, I don't want to do those things anymore. Maybe part of us still wants to.
Yeah, that's real.
That's real. But to be able to say, you know what? You're right. Part of me does still want to do that. And I'm going to tell you why I'm choosing not to.
Yeah.
I'm prioritizing someone over this.
Yes. And what it's going to mean to those people in a few years when they see that this is stuck, that this really and truly is who you are and who you're choosing to live now.
Yeah. Never underestimate the power of God working in your brokenness and not in your perfection. And we hear that in the letters of St. Paul when Paul's describing this thorn he has in his flesh. We don't really know what it is, but he hates it. I mean, he does. He begs the Lord to take it away, and he begs him, he says 3 times. And begging is a very strong word, right? It's not just like a placid asking. And what does Jesus say to him? My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness.
Have you seen the comic strip where he's in prison next to SpongeBob?
No. Oh, no.
He's chained up in prison next to SpongeBob, and SpongeBob's going, hey, Paul, hey, Paul, hey, Paul, hey, Paul, hey, Paul. And then they have Paul writing, I was given a thorn in my side. So good.
Yeah, maybe it was someone else. Who knows?
Could have been a person.
Could have been.
Sorry, that was a total tangent. So, it's interesting because like Junior talks about having this like closed circle and how difficult it is to change in that. And somebody who had a totally different experience was Alexandria, who went away to college and changed easily because it was a new place. And so was working on like what parts did you want to get back?
Interesting.
So let's hear that story here.
Coming from a young adult, I just turned 21. I am a senior in college, about to graduate. I grew up Catholic my entire life. Very, very Catholic. My parents are the best people ever. But when I got to college, it was kind of like, it just kind of got thrown on the back burner. And I think that's just so normalized when you're in college and you're on your own and you're not with your parents who are like helping you push like your faith as much. And I feel like it's just difficult because there's a lot of people around me that like aren't Catholic, or they are Catholic and they don't practice. And I've noticed that being in college. But I go to Texas A&M, and we have the biggest student Catholic organization of any campus in the United States, which is St. Mary's. Oh, amazing. We love St. Mary's. I love them so much. But it was very hard for me to find one person who helped me like get back into Catholicism, because my freshman and sophomore year didn't know Jesus in any way, even though I had known him my entire life. It was just like a culture shock moving to college and being on my own and not having any parental guidance and being alone for the first time. And I think that's a big thing, like being a young adult and just not having someone push you as much. So you have to push yourself. And I'm happy we figured it out. I definitely needed motivation. I came to Seek last year. It was apparent. My parents forced me actually to come. I didn't know I was coming. And now I'm back by my own free will. We chose to come back. So it was definitely that push. I needed that push from my mom and dad, and they helped me a lot. So, yeah.
Good mom and dad.
Yep.
We all need a good mom and dad.
Sometimes it's not a bad thing for mom and dad to push us to do something.
They are our parents.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of willing the good for the other.
Right? Hard things.
Yep.
Yeah. I love when she says that even though she'd known Jesus her whole life, she didn't know him. I love that. That's so real. And I think, you know, especially when we grow up in a very particular place, and let's say we know someone and we've only ever known them in that place. And when they go to a different environment, it's like it brings out this whole other side of them. And we're like, who are you? And likewise, it can happen to us too. And to realize that sometimes when we're transplanted, we can't recognize Jesus in this place.
Yeah, like it can be harder. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know what we're looking for.
Yeah. Or the other thing too is like she's talking about, you know, when she was growing up, her parents were very interested in the faith and like brought her along for that. And then when she got to college, she felt like she didn't know Jesus. Well, that may have been partly real too, just because just going through the motions of following my parents to mass every week doesn't mean that I know Jesus. It doesn't mean that I have my own relationship with him. You know, like if you ever have like a friend group and like there's certain people that you are friends with because they're friends with your friends.
Right. Yeah.
But you probably would never just go to coffee with that person.
Yeah.
Right. So like Jesus can kind of be that person. Where like I'm friendly with Jesus because he's friends with my friends.
Yeah.
But like I don't ever really have a one-on-one with him. You know? And so to get to that place where it's like, if I'm going to do this, it's going to require that one-on-one with Jesus. It can feel like you suddenly don't know him at all.
Yeah.
That's real. I mean, he's a real person. So it requires real effort to build that relationship.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I think even I help out with some of our vocation work outreach. And it's something that I hear from young women quite often is like, you know, I grew up going to church, but I never really met Jesus like on my own until, and then they share an experience or an age or whatever. And it's fascinating, like the breadth of variety in that age and that experience is so diverse and so different. Like some of them, they meet him for the first time when they're 7.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Some of them, they meet them for the first time when they're like 27.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the Lord finds these like beautiful, like starburst points of intersection for us where we really get to know him on a personal level. And whatever that moment is for your life, it is sacred. Like hold on to that.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this and you're like, I was 67, good for you.
Awesome.
Celebrate.
We're just glad it happened.
Yeah.
You know? And if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm not sure that I know Jesus, like, you know, this is an invitation too to enter into that.
And maybe that means you go to coffee with him on your own,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like go to
Mm-hmm.
adoration, open
Mm-hmm.
up the scriptures on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't feel quite ready for that, even just literally take a cup of coffee and go park somewhere with a view and talk to him there, like.
Yeah, I do that. I love that. Literal
it's
coffee
a
date.
really great way to start. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is a good way to keep going too.
Mm-hmm.
The other piece for me about this too is as somebody who did work in campus ministry is just how much I think that we aren't terribly good at this moment in the church in the way that we do things right now. We aren't terribly good at helping people to understand like what their personal responsibility is in their relationship with God. Like we're really good at letting people know that they're supposed to show up to mass and maybe put an envelope in the basket or volunteer their time for a couple of things or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Some pastors are better than others at making sure that people know like when confession is and why and how often they should be going. Some are better than others at inviting people to deeper prayer or whatever. But I don't think we're terribly good at helping each other to enter into that personal relationship. I've known several people who have found themselves leaving Catholic circles and joining Protestant circles because they say, quote unquote, I found Jesus here.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's a little bit hard to know exactly what that is because we have like the real presence of Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. So he's here. He really, really, really is here.
In every way.
And like actually there's a big gold door and like candles lighting the way. But for some reason, some people have a hard time finding him there. And so I guess I'm just kind of reflecting on that a little bit myself and wondering like, how can I help people around me to see him, how do we help each other to find him there and to have that experience?
Yeah. I have two things exploding in my head right now. Okay. So, because I came kind of from the opposite angle. Like I met Jesus in a Protestant church.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I came to the Catholic church, I was like, oh my gosh, he's even more here.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful to our Protestant brothers and sisters who allowed me to encounter Christ for the first time when I was a child, like when I was being raised in a Protestant church. When I went to the Catholic church, it was because I already knew Jesus that I was like, whoa, the rest of you.
Yes.
Yeah. And
you knew what to look for.
I knew who I was looking for, right? Mm-hmm. I could recognize his voice even in things he was saying that were unexpected. Mm-hmm. And that is like the foundation. And I think that I remember when I was a kid, I was very, very shy with strangers. And I had a little bit of like social anxiety before social anxiety was like a labeled thing. And my mom, I hated this when I was a kid, but she did it because she loved me. My mom would make us practice. Like she would pretend to be the stranger or she would pretend to be the guest who was going to come to the house in 2 hours. And we had to like come up and like say what we would say. Like, hi, nice to meet you. Welcome to our house. Or like,
that's really cute.
I hated
I would also hate it, but it's still really cute.
Oh my gosh. But it helped me so much. And she even like, I sucked at small talk. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys are into Myers-Briggs or not, but I'm an INFJ. We're not good at small talk. I sucked at small talk and she made me practice small talk with her. Mm-hmm. Also was awful, but now I can do it to the point where the beauty of small talk is that it allows you, for people who are not yet comfortable, to break down the wall until you can talk about like the real stuff, right? And it was because my mom recognized that inability in me that she was like, okay, let's build this in like this really uncomfortable situation so that when you go and you meet people, you know how to start. The rest will have to be up to you, but you know how to start.
Yeah.
If we're able to do that for one another, if we're able to like sit down with our friends and be like, Jesus is a person. Mm-hmm. He is God and he is a person. How do you talk to your friends? Mm-hmm. Start there. The rest will deepen. The rest you'll find out. Start there. Mm. Like, if you know that to build a relationship with a person, you need to spend time with them. You need to find out what they like. Mm-hmm. They need to find out what you like. Spend time with them. Start sharing.
Yeah.
And start receiving. The rest will grow. Hopefully it will be less awkward than my practice small talk with my mother.
I love it. So we're going to hear Marnina, just to wrap up this episode, I think we can listen to Marnina sharing about her experience of who God is and who God says that she is. And I think she expresses it just so beautifully.
I think for me, the greatest struggle is actually wanting to do it, wanting to prove myself to him. So seeing God as this wonderful, beautiful, amazing father that he is, but then, and seeing myself as the wretch that I am, but then the devil coming in and kind of distorting my identity as not a beloved daughter who has fallen into sin, but her identity is still there, but rather as just dirty and just broken, and someone who needs to clean themselves before they can present themselves to God. And I think for me, one of the greatest struggles is doing, rather than being in his love, doing the things that will call his love to me, if that makes sense. And so that for me is learning to rest in who he says I am, and who the truth and who the church teaches us that we are, and just accept his love rather than, kind of jump up and down. Say, hey God, here I am. Look, I'm doing so well.
Look how great I'm doing.
I love that too. And like she's kind of saying like she doesn't have to do that, but like also I feel like God would totally smile.
Yeah.
if she's having like a particularly beautiful moment of like loving somebody or like, overcoming some vice or something, and like she's jumping up and down and like going, look, Dad, look. It's like like little kids like riding their bike and look, Dad, no hands.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And the dad's like, great, put your hands back. Oh gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really love that. And I love that she's pulling out the difference between doing and being.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because our identity rests in being. We live out our identity in the doing, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
But it rests in the being. And if we can, we have to connect it there or we can't live out of it. And that being is, I think, one of the hardest things for us to really be able to just quote unquote, I don't want to say do, but like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're just going to wrap it up here with some comments from Alexandria.
And I'm such a perfectionist. I want to do it all right. And I'm a convert to the faith, which doesn't help to have like culture Catholic shock. And I'm just like taking it all in and wanting to like check all the boxes right. And I just feel God, especially at this retreat,
Catholic culture shock
calling
is
my
real.
heart to just be,
That's for sure.
just be in his love and with him.
Yeah, it can be really overwhelming. But the beauty of being able to just rest in who God is, and in that discover who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly almost feel like I have nothing to add because she just did such a good job of expressing it, and like that idea of like, even when we do have this positive image of God, that seeing God as this wonderful, beautiful, amazing father, and seeing myself as a wretch and that like the devil's going to come in and like totally distort everything. And it's like, no, he doesn't get a say. Actually, the devil doesn't get a say.
Yeah.
Even in the midst of my sin, it doesn't negate the fact that in my baptism, I was made by a free gift into a child of God.
Yeah.
A chosen and adopted child of God.
Yeah. And if you are listening to this and you are not yet baptized and you are like, no, I'm still a wretch. We're all still wretches, if it's any consolation. But here's the thing, though. When we recognize our wretchedness in truth, and not in the warped way that the devil seeks to make us understand it.
No, and not in that like total depravity way either.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Just in the sense of like, we fail.
Exactly. When we can really see that, if we're seeing it in truth, it doesn't make us feel like we cannot approach God. It makes us understand just how amazing and wonderful the gift of God's love really is. And the only response to that love is a reciprocal gift of self, in which we seek to give our whole selves to the Lord, in prayer in our lives and through the sacraments, in entering into his family in baptism.
Yeah. And I think I just really, really want to underline the reality of the fact that it is a free gift.
Yes.
It's not something we earn. It's not something we work for.
Nope.
It's not something that we become worthy of.
Or draw to ourselves or whatever.
Nope. Nope. It is a free gift.
Mm-hmm. And it's not the kind of free gift that you get at a department store where they're trying to get something else out of you.
It's not a loss leader.
Right. Like it's actually free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the theme of this season is just going to be the heart of a God who just wants us in heaven with him.
Amen.
Yeah. So I think that probably can wrap up our episode on identity and all that good stuff. I mean, so many of these things are touching on that topic, but these were really kind of explicitly about that. Yeah.
And we would really encourage you guys, the theme of this season is really that it's your season, right? But our podcast is called Dare to Dwell for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. And I would really extend the invitation that as we talk about identity and this free gift of God, to dare to go sit in that today. And we'll see you at our next episode.
God bless you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Dare to Dwell is a production of the Daughters of St. Paul and is brought to you by our generous supporters on Patreon. For more information about our sisters or ministry, or to learn about how you can support us, visit connect.
Hi, welcome back to Dare to Dwell, a podcast with the Daughter of St. Paul.
God bless you.
There's 2 of us. Also many of us.
All the Daughters of St. Paul.
Hi, welcome back to... Nope.